Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers have more information about the seller and the business to make a potential buying decision further down the road. Today, we'll be talking about an e-commerce business for sale, and I have the seller with me today. So welcome to the show, Nick, and how are you doing?
Hey Vinny, how you doing? I'm doing good.
Yeah, that's great. I'm doing very well as well, and I'm really looking forward to talking about your business. Just before we dive deeper, let me give a very brief summary of your business for our listeners today. So today's listing is an e-commerce and Amazon FBA business created in August 2016 in the health and fitness niche. The average monthly revenue for the business is $74,276, and it makes an average of $28,667 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale are the Amazon Seller Central account with 19 SKUs, a domain and all of the site's contents and files, 2 trademarks and 3 patents, social media accounts, an email list with over 25,000 subscribers that's hosted on Klaviyo, supplier contracts and relationships, employee contracts, and SOPs. And please note, inventory isn't normally included in the listing price, and further details can be provided to active buyers. Head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 52615 if you want to learn more about the business, or you can unlock the listing if you want to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing the asset. Nick, that's a very general overview about the business, but we're really looking forward to talking more about you and finding about yourself. Can you share with me what your background is in building or running online businesses?
Before I started this company, I had exactly zero background in building online businesses. Absolutely nothing.
Right. Okay. So what was your sort of day job at the time before you started diving into this?
I have various other businesses as well, but none of them were e-commerce. Right now, it's mainly property development. But prior to this, I was basically in Mexico with one of my friends, and he's what would you call it, like digital nomad. He has his own SaaS company, and he was in Vietnam, and a bunch of people were doing Amazon FBA businesses, and he was telling me about one of his friends who was basically doing, I think it was like 70 grand a month selling wine glasses. And I was like, I got to give this a try. So ever since then, that was the first year. I think the first year we did probably 350,000 in sales. The second year, close to $1 million. Third, I think 1.3, and then coronavirus just absolutely rocked us pretty hard. So we did about $1 million last year.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Thailand and Vietnam are definitely hotspots for digital nomads. So yeah, it sounds like your friend definitely is raking it in, and I can understand why you're inspired. I probably would be if I heard the same story from someone else as well. So let's talk about this business in particular then. Like, obviously you heard about e-commerce, working from home, and got the idea from your friend. How did you come up with the idea to start this business in particular?
Honestly, we just saw a niche on Amazon that was very underdeveloped and underserved. And that's where it got started on Amazon, and it absolutely blew up. But the problem was that we ran into, because I want to make it very clear that we're not just an Amazon company. I know a lot of buyers are looking for that, but due to coronavirus last year, we had to kind of shift our sales channels a little bit. And we also have our Shopify store that does very well.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. Can you share with me, how does the business primarily make money then?
Right now, we just have the 2 sales channels, Amazon and Shopify. And I would say it's probably about 55-35 split. But prior to that, the years before 2020, it was like 90 Amazon, 10 Shopify. And then this year, it's probably 55 Shopify, the rest Amazon.
Gotcha. So, like you said, because of the pandemic, it sounds like you completely pivoted, moving away from Amazon and really expanded the Shopify side of things. So it sounds like that rakes in the lion's share of the revenue right now.
Yeah, it was more because of operational issues. I don't know how many people who are listening to this who had to deal with Amazon during the coronavirus, but it was not pretty as far as Amazon FBA goes. They very heavily restricted our SKUs, our limitations on inventory. Mm-hmm. So we had to switch to a third party. So, for example, we kept running out of inventory on Amazon, which would hurt our sales. So we would always switch to a 3PL and continue selling through our Shopify channel. That's why we never really sold out on Shopify, but we did sell out on Amazon.
Gotcha. Okay. And we'll dig into some of the finer details of what it took to build a business and what it looks like running it right now. You just said you basically chose this niche because you basically saw a bit of a blue ocean there within the e-commerce space, right?
Yeah, it was a couple factors, that and because it's a gated niche, and we knew that would also deter a lot of these first-time FBA sellers from even trying to get into it.
Right, gotcha. That makes sense. Obviously scaled the business and grown it to a really impressive size, but our listeners will be wondering, why are you selling the business right now instead of staying with it and growing it?
There's two main factors for me personally, and that would be I need the capital to push into my other businesses, mainly property development. I don't know where our listeners are, but I'm in Southern California and it is out of control here. You could paint a shed and sell it for $1 million. So I need that. And then also I wanted to get the capital before Biden's tax plan goes through, in which I would probably be taxed around 55% of my income, which wouldn't be great.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Let's talk about your experience then. As you were building this business, was there anything that you learned that you would apply to future sites or e-commerce businesses?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I learned everything through this business. It was all learning during this business, which I kind of have some regrets with. I wish I knew before going into it, in the sense that you can make a very expensive lessons is what they turn into be. I know everything about manufacturing at this point, which is great. But one things I would definitely want to say to either new sellers or somebody who's looking to expand their business is be very careful with the other businesses that you do business with, and make sure you have contracts in place in regards to that. For us, for example, media business reached out to us. We thought it was a great opportunity. The contract was based on impressions. They offered 1 million impressions for, I think it was $25,000. And at the time, I was still naive and thought impressions meant something when they actually don't mean anything at all. It's just a fake number that other companies use to sell you on. We made probably $1,200 off of that advertisement deal. So it's a net $24,000 loss.
That's some really good advice there. I guess just as an extension, if you could speak to yourself, and this will probably apply, like you said, to our listeners who are first time in the industry, if you could speak to yourself when you began the business, like 5 years ago, what would be the number one thing that you would tell yourself?
There's probably two things. The first would be don't get a business partner. That's an easy one. The second one would be don't try to do everything yourself, as a lot of people are with their first time business or anything along those lines. They're very hesitant to hand off any of the workload to other people. I would say as soon as you can afford to hand off any sections of your business, do so, especially because generally speaking, those people doing it have the expertise to do it, and they're a lot better at it than you are.
Yeah, really solid advice there. I think with the business partner thing, I think it's a mixed feelings about that, in the community. Some people say that it's not too bad, and then others have the same opinion like you, like it's best to sort of go it alone because you never know. I've heard people say that, you never know when your business partner will stab you in the back. And then you've got other people who will say, as long as everything is clear and above board, it's fine. So that's an interesting point you make. And that's a really good point as well about delegating, because I think it can be really hard to let go of certain areas of responsibilities, but at the end of the day, we can't be the best at everything, right? So it's good to hand it off to someone who is.
The business partner is concerned, it can work out. I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying it's not worth, generally speaking, the ROI of what you're going to get from that person compared to what you're going to be giving up, where you could just be doing that work or you could pay somebody to do that work. Also, on top of that, having a business partner is being married. You are marrying this person and you need a prenup going into it. You absolutely need a prenup. No matter how good of friends you are with this person, make sure you sit down, you have that very hard conversation with a lawyer and have your responsibilities dictated out in that prenup.
Yeah, I think that's solid advice. It's always good to cover yourselves in case anything happens, for sure. When you first started this business, Nick, was there any software or tools that just really helped you as you were growing it?
I mean, the one I gotta say other than Shopify, but as far as the Amazon end, when we first started, Amazon didn't collect any of the sales taxes. So the best one for us was TaxJar, and we still use them.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of that one. I guess on the other side of things then, because you talked about what worked for you, was there anything that you tried that didn't give you the ROI you were hoping for? I guess you mentioned about the advertising, the media partnerships. Was there anything else?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's been so many fails along the way as far as either advertising goes, maybe even, I don't want to say a product because all of our products have paid off. I would say either people or advertising have been the biggest ones for us, or also not filing for patents early enough and having to deal with the patent and trademark office were also huge nightmares. So I originally tried to file the first patent by myself. Not the patent, the first trademark by myself to get that in there. I was like, I figured I could do it. Don't do that. Just hire somebody. Just pay the money. Have somebody do it. It's not worth it in the time frame that these things take forever. So you might as well get it right the first time around.
Gotcha. Yeah. So hiring someone who knows that system in and out probably saves you a lot, saves you money, time, and a lot of frustration as well. Cool. Let me just ask you a bit more about the marketing right now then. Like, what do you currently do in terms of marketing?
We do regular PR as far as the standard media, Cosmo, all that stuff. We've been in all the big names, BuzzFeed, everything along those lines. Our biggest ROI, though, by far, I personally think, is Instagram. If you can start building your Instagram as soon as possible, and you don't need a lot of money to do it. And you can get going and build a really good audience there. So if you do launch additional products, they'll show up to support you in the future as well.
That's great. Is it mainly organic traffic at the moment, or is there a lot of paid advertising involved as well?
We can't do any paid advertisements.
Gotcha. So majority of the traffic right now is mainly organic then?
It's all been organic, yeah.
That's great. I guess on a day-to-day basis or even a weekly basis, can you describe what's the type of work that you do to maintain the business right now?
Me personally, I mainly focus on operations as far as inventory management and developing new products or anything along those lines. I hate the term bigger picture stuff, but that tends to be where my focus is. I don't have a lot of time to dedicate to the company right now. I'm probably doing about 5 hours a week along those lines. But yeah, that's where my personal day-to-day goes, is dealing with our factories and shipping and developing new products, patents, stuff like that.
Gotcha. So it's mainly overseeing sort of the operations. You've got employees working for you, is that right?
Yeah, we have a small team. We have someone who handles social media. They're great. We have someone who handles PR. We have somebody who does our newsletters and blog. And then we have a part-time illustrator, which does our graphic design work as well. And then we have about 4 people who do our customer service. And we are very dedicated to our customers. If anybody sends us an email, they get a response probably within 5 minutes.
Gotcha. Okay. So it sounds like a lot of the operational day-to-day stuff is handled mainly by this team. Can you just briefly describe what the logistics side of it looks like in terms of getting the inventory from the manufacturer to your 3PLs?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's not like a big ship around the world kind of situation. We mainly operate out of the U.S. I don't mean mainly, we only operate out of the U.S. So we ship from our factory in China, and that will go to either Amazon FBA, or it will go to our 3PL, which we currently use Shipmonk as our third party. Mm-hmm. And as the operations go, the reasoning between that is before we were having issues during coronavirus with Amazon, I'm sure other sellers did too. I think there was a 2-month period where they weren't even accepting inventory. and that was a nightmare. So we have a 3PL which does accept inventory. Also, when they take in inventory, they take it in very fast. It's none of this 2-week waiting to get the inventory stocked or anything along those lines. Also, the other issue we ran into too is through our Shopify site, it's primarily fulfilled through Amazon, but Amazon does not ship to PO boxes and they don't ship internationally. So we have to use the 3PL for those as well.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks for sharing that. Because you mentioned you've got a team that handles a lot of stuff for you. Are they all willing to continue with the new buyer after the sale?
Yeah, I was just saying everyone's freelancers. No one's actually on payroll, and I'm sure they would be happy to work for whoever picks up the company. That shouldn't be an issue at all.
That's great to hear. I suppose, if someone is listening to this and they're interested in acquiring your business, but they don't have any experience with, e-commerce or this niche in particular, what would you say are some of the skills or requirements they should learn so they can step into the role and hit the ground running?
To take over my role personally, it wouldn't take very much. They would need to go over some manufacturing details with the manufacturer as far as how to make new products. And then other than that, I would say they would need to learn the back end of Amazon and the back end of Shopify. But those are pretty simple things. They could learn it in a day or two. I can't see that being very hard. The other thing that might come in handy, this is something you can defer to the person handling social media, is engagement metrics and what looks like bad engagement as far as that goes, because that's something that I think everyone really needs to know if they're approving any kind of promotions or PR, anything along those lines, in that $25,000 media fail. But yeah, that's probably about it.
Yeah, makes sense. If you did stay with the business, Nick, what are some of the ways that you would explore or try to grow and scale the business further?
So we were going to launch, we had a whole nother product lined up with our other trademark, because there's 2 trademarks with this business, to get that up and running. And I think that would be a really big opportunity personally. Another thing to do is, which I just don't have the resources for, and I don't even know where to start. But if you could do a celebrity partnership, that would be pretty massive in our industry. It would go a long way.
That sounds great. Again, there's 2 sides of every coin. Those are the opportunities. But what would you say are some of the biggest risks with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
Right now, the biggest risk, and I'm kind of facing it right now, has to do with inventory management and generally dealing with Amazon. If having them stock our inventory, it seems like every time we get inventory in, it's basically we sell out right away. And that's just something that I'm not really used to dealing with, and I don't really know how to fix it. I'm trying to get inventory there as soon as possible, but it's just the way it is right now.
That makes sense, for sure. Last 3 questions really from me, Nick. How much support are you offering buyers?
That's all negotiable, whatever they're thinking. I mean, obviously I want whoever takes this over, I want to make sure they're good to go and they're able to grow and they're printing cash, because it is my baby too. I mean, I don't want to just abandon it. I'm happy to help whenever they need it, really.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Are you willing to commit to a non-compete?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And are you open to negotiating something like an earnout?
Yeah, I'm definitely open to it. I'm definitely open to negotiations. I'm fairly open on everything. Like I was saying, though, the reason I am selling the company is obviously for capital. So it just depends on the right negotiations, the right buyer.
Yeah. Last question from me then. If you put yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why would you say that this is a business worth buying?
This business is crushing it, and has huge opportunities, and it just needs a little bit of love. And if somebody has the better know better than I do, then have no problem whatsoever doing this. Like I said, I'm only putting in about 5 hours a week on this. Like if they put in 10 hours a week, they could easily double the business.
That's great. Nick, is there anything you'd like to share that you think I might have missed?
We can talk more about last year and how bad that killed us.
Yeah, if you want, go ahead. Share with me in that context then about last year, how that affected the company and what that means maybe for new buyers.
Yeah, I'd be happy to go over that. So for us, I was not prepared for last year. I'm sure most people weren't, but I felt like we even had a little bit of a heads up on it, and I still failed as a CEO of the company. We primarily use Amazon FBA as our fulfillment centers, and we have a very hot season between November and probably February. The problem is that we generally deal with is that our factory is out of China, So they have something called, I believe it's the Golden New Year or the Chinese New Year, which they generally take off about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the factory, sometimes a month. This year, it turned into maybe 2 months. So basically what happened is Chinese New Year hit, and then it kept getting extended because of coronavirus. So China was shut down, and we're coming off our biggest sales throughout the year. So we need inventory. But China shut down. I can't order anything. Then when China opens back up and they're good to go, then the U.S. shuts down. And we were using Amazon primarily, and I think they might have shut down or they stopped taking any new inventory for 2 months, I want to say. Maybe a month, 2 months, which is absolutely brutal because now we're sold out of our listings. We're sold out of everything. We have the inventory. We just can't get it to the right channels to sell it. So that was pretty brutal. And ever since then, up until probably about 3 weeks ago, we were still fairly limited on the inventory we could send into Amazon. I think all summer long, it was probably about 300 to 500 units per SKU was the Amazon inventory limits. Now we can send in, I think, 8,000 or 10,000 units total. So it's getting back to the good old days, but we're still kind of recovering from last year on that note.
Yeah, that's really valuable to hear in context as well. Like you said, with the Chinese New Year, you're absolutely right about the 2 weeks to the 4 month period where they take off to celebrate it. Unfortunately, it just kept getting extended because everyone around the world is trying to figure out how to contain the virus. So yeah, it's good context for why the business was hit. And I think credit to you as well for being able to shift gears and pivot, to change things to more to the Shopify side so you can keep the business profitable. Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I really hope that your business gets picked up by the right buyer in the not too distant future.
Yeah, sounds great. If anybody has any questions or anything, just let me know. I'm happy to talk about it or go into details or even the details about the future of the business as well.
That's great to hear. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, you can head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 52615. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked the listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.